But yeah, hello everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking after yourselves. Welcome to another episode of the Hustle Chronicles, where we bring amazing entrepreneurs and freelancers doing incredible work. But as you know, we look at hustling and business and entrepreneurship through an honest lens, because we know that while there are many highs, there can sometimes be a couple of lows that come with it. But we like to show you that entrepreneurship is something, and freelancing is something that anyone can get into and can lead to incredible and fun opportunities. As you know, we bring on amazing guest speakers, and we've got another amazing one here today. As you also know, I don't like to do introductions, so I would like us to hear from our amazing guest speaker. So I'm going to hand over to our guest speaker for today's episode, Missy. It's been great. It's great to have you on. Could we know a bit more about you and what you do?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm so happy to be here, honestly. I'm a fan of you and the show, so this is incredible. My name is Missy, as you said, but also known as Misi Africa. So I'm originally from Nigeria, but I was born and raised in the UK, so I'm a second-generation immigrant. I am a fashion founder, fashion entrepreneur, and I'm also a tech founder, an innovator, currently building the world's first fashion management platform that enables anyone, absolutely anyone, with skills, with no skills, to create fashion products. I'm a mum as well. I'm a mum to a 4-year-old. She's super cute. And I'm just a fun person. I'm just happy to be here, honestly.
Thank you so much. What's funny to me is you said you didn't know how to introduce yourself. You did it perfectly. So.
I was literally just like, well, who am I? Where have I come from? I don't know.
But no, honestly, it's great to learn about your journey and all your work. So we're going to dive in for the first question. And this is looking at your journey, because for anyone who's read your bio, it's on our website. You've mentioned that you've worked with iconic retailers such as John Lewis and Selfridges before launching is it Kiwi and Yam?
Yeah, so Kiwi and Yam was my first fashion business. Okay, cool. It's my brand, it's my baby. And actually, this is our 10-year anniversary. So I started it 10 years ago. Definitely going to have a big party at the end of the year to celebrate. Just currently developing the collection. But yeah, I started it in retail, as most teenagers do. It's your first opportunity at getting a job. But I didn't realize how influential working in retail would be to my whole journey.
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually like what this question is all about. So what were some of the big lessons you learned from your retail experience that helped to shape your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I've never actually been asked that before. So working in retail, so I started working when I was 15. I had my NI card, national insurance. I came a bit early, so I was allowed to work. And I just wanted the money, right? I just wanted the money. And that's what retailing really helped me understand, that people will buy anything you sell to them, as well as it's well merchandised, it's got great marketing, and everything like that. So that's when I realized, like, selling fashion, selling garments is actually a really good business model. I worked for John Lewis, I worked for Selfridges, I worked for Topshop, and I just saw how they were able to franchise, branch out, and it really made me see, like, wow, like, fashion is big. Like, it's $1 trillion economy, $1 trillion industry. Like, it's one of the biggest industries in the world, and you have retail stores everywhere. Like, everywhere in the world you go, there is a fashion store. Do you know what I mean? So I think what really attracted me and what made me get into fashion is the scalability of it and how worldwide it was. It wasn't like selling another, I don't know, I couldn't think of anything, but it wasn't like a bike shop. Like, fashion is literally global. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And I think, like you said, it's, to me, it's really interesting to see how you're, like, from working in that industry, you're able to sort of like tap in and see like what could be like utilized and like what's missing and how you could sort of like put your foot in the door, which is really incredible. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
That's okay.
We're going to go on to our next question, which is all about blending culture with fashion, because I think, a lot of people would say fashion plays a huge part in a lot of things, whether it's like cultural movements, whether it's music, whether it's even like film and television, certain colors and design choices. Fashion is really important. And speaking about fashion, Kiwi and Yam is more than just a clothing brand, you know?
Yep.
You describe it as a cultural movement
Yep.
that is celebrating the multicultural Britain and African heritage.
Yeah.
So how did you develop the brand's identity? Because I think as you mentioned, you know, marketing, like you can come up with an idea, you can come up with a business, but it's like you said, it's about like, what is the identity of it? How do you market it? How do you create, like, almost like, I know people say that having your own business is like having a child.
Yeah. I got two, trust me. I can tell you they're both the same.
And it's like what you said, like, it's almost like, how do you develop that personality, that your brand isn't just, you know, if we think of like big brands like Nike isn't just a clothing brand. People would say it's all about like motivation, even in their like slogan, just do it. It's all about like this sense of action, this call to action.
Yeah.
So how did you develop the brand's identity and what impact has it had on the UK's creative scene?
Oh, wow, that's a big one. Yeah, woo, loaded. Okay, so Kiwi and Yam represents the kind of, well, Kiwi represents the vibrancy of the brand, and then the Yam represents the raw ethnic edge. That's what the name means, Kiwi and Yam. And how that came about was really just me trying to express myself, my heritage, my African heritage, being raised in London. I was born and raised in Tottenham, and it was so diverse. Like, I had like all people from all walks of life, like around me in my primary school, and I was so in tune with myself, being raised in an African house. So when I came home, I was in Nigeria, but when I was in school, I was in London. So I had both worlds, the best of both worlds, and I really just wanted to kind of bring that together. So what had happened was I was just kind of DIYing. I love doing a bit of DIY crafts, and I used to upcycle like some of my clothes. Another thing is, my parents were kind of stingy. So my mum was not really doing all this, buying me the latest things, and I was just like, oh, how can I like make myself pop in without like, you know, robbing, stealing, because so I was upcycling, and then I remember there was a jacket that I had, it was like a bomber jacket I got from Hackney Market, Dalston Market, and then I had lined the hood with like a kente fabric. It was really nice at the time. And then my friends were like, oh, where'd you get a jacket from? Where'd you get a jacket from? I was like, I made it. And then I realized that it was actually an interest of people actually wanted to tap into their heritage through fashion. And there's an area of fashion called fashion psychology that a lot of people don't speak about. There's an amazing lady called Shaquila Bales, and she speaks about it all the time. But fashion psychology is a sense of kind of like owning yourself through what you wear and really expressing yourself through what you wear. And Kiwi and Yam was just developed through me expressing myself. So that was how I was able to develop the brand as I went along. And I think as I grew, as I'm growing, the brand is also growing through me. But I'm aware that not everyone likes to tie their brand to themselves. But you do have to embody your brand as if it was a person. So what I tell my clients to do is to create a brand portfolio or customer profile where you take your brand as if it was a person, and then you break it into different segments, such as, okay, what is my brand voice? What's my tone? What's my personality? If I was a person, who would I be? And that's kind of helps you to kind of grow and flesh out marketing tactics, ideas, strategy from that being or brand. So yeah, I feel like I answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like, to touch on a few of the things that you said there, I think first off, it's really incredible, like you said, that even in the name, there's almost like there's two customer profiles, or like two, because I know, like through my work, Somerset House, you know, there was a masterclass from Axel Arigato, and they were talking about how for them as a company, Axel and Arigato are two different customers that they work with, and they've almost got like, they see them as two separate people that, yes, there might be overlaps in them both using Axel Arigato to, like you said, express themselves and their culture and the person that they want to be. But they said that I think Axel was the younger person, you know, they might get their shopping information from like TikTok or Instagram. But they were saying like with Axel, it's all, they were dressing for the person that they want to be. With Arigato, it's their older demographic, and they're dressing for the person that they know that they are.
Period. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and it's really great. Even as you mentioned with Kiwi and Yam, like it's really great to see that there's that like overlap between the two, because yes, you said that like Kiwi represents one part, but so does Yam. And I think it's also understanding that, because sometimes with your business, you might have I think that's one of the like biggest, maybe lie is an exaggeration, but like the biggest thing that I tell people is they feel like their customer has to be like one demographic or one person, whereas, you know, your customer profile, you might have like 2 customers. And as you said, it might be one is just about the clothing itself, but then one is also about the cultural element and like the impact of the work that you're doing. I think secondly, like you mentioned, is developing like your customer profile. So knowing, if you don't know your customer specifically, because maybe you're supporting a group that is not, like you're not a part of that group, it's about working with people that maybe are, or doing like customer research, looking at the market, doing
data.
Exactly.
There's data out there. I think one of the things that I feel that lacks in the fashion industry or lacks with the newbies that are coming into the fashion industry is actually collating data that already exists. Research is a dying art form, and it's the most important art form of starting any kind of business. You need to research your market, and I believe in being really granular about your customer segmentation. So as you said, some of Axel's customers are from TikTok, some are more aspirational, some are kind of like more inspirational. And really understanding what that means will help you. Everything will kind of come with ease. So in terms of marketing tactics, you know that you're not going to waste your time creating a TikTok profile if the customer you're trying to attract doesn't even use TikTok. Just because it's the wave right now and it's trending, is that who your customer is, and is that the kind of medium they use to acquire brands? And going back to the fact that you're building a fashion business, you want to make money. You don't want to just be visible for the fact of being visible. You want actually people to purchase from you. So you really need to think about all these kind of things, and it goes back to research, development, data set, and trial and error. So yeah.
No, 100%. And it's literally like what you said, that like, you know, we've mentioned it here before, that sometimes there's this like big concern with like, oh, you have to have, whether it's your first business or if it's a new business, you have to have like everything sorted out. Like it has to be like this plan, you have to stick to this is what you're committing to. But it's literally like you said, like it's only through trial and error things happen.
Do you know what? Yeah, I posted this on my Instagram the other day, and nothing is born in its final form. When your mum gave birth to you, you weren't born, Jeffrey, as you grew. Like nothing is born, birthed, ready. It's always growth, and it's important because seasons change, economics change, the climate changes, and you need to kind of adapt to that. So I feel like one of the things is to not be stuck in your ways. And I say this thing to myself actually, is that I have a goal, but I'm not attached to how I get there because again, I need to be adaptable, and it's one of the best ways to be, especially in a time like this where society is so unpredictable. Like you do not want to be locked into any one way. You have to be able to change. So
no, 100%. And it's literally like we said, like, I think that's one of the things that I learned this year was, like you said, looking at the wider industry, because, you know, even if you like, it's not necessarily within your country. So a big example is in America, obviously with Trump being elected, there were changes.
I ain't gonna say nothing.
So there's been changes with like DEI policy. And like a lot of people, I think it was someone I was talking to over the last couple of weeks, they mentioned, well, be aware that like, you know, if you are applying for, whether it's you're applying for funding competitions or you're approaching companies that aren't based in the UK, and maybe over the last like previous years, they did have a focus on like wanting to work on improving like DEI in the industry. That funding may have all just dried up because of changes in policy. You know, it's the same with, you know, people saying about like universities. Universities are still sort of suffering the impact of COVID. So universities may not necessarily be as interested in working with like external clients, and they prefer to use their like in-house talent, which may not always be the best. It may also overwork their current staff, but people say that like, I think that's one thing that you mentioned, is just like sometimes you don't always think about the wider impacts of like, whether it's politics, whether it's like social issues, and how that could impact the work that you're trying to do.
Yeah, and it goes back to research, because one thing I do with my clients when we're developing strategy and conceptualization is a pestle analysis, where we look at the political, economical, societal, and all these other areas that you need to review to actually see where in this economy or this state I can actually build my business. How can I actually penetrate and get market traction? So yeah, there's a lot of things to be considered rather than just creating a garment. I think that's actually just 20% of building a business. It's actually just, because once you have the garment, great, but what happens then? And it's the reason why, you know, a lot of brands fail. Yeah.
No, 100%. And it's like we said, like sometimes especially when you're a solo founder, sometimes you are just like multiple hats. Like you're a marketer, you're a business planner, you're a content strategist, you're a videographer, you're a video editor, and like you have to have all these hats on.
Yeah.
But it's like what you said, sometimes you'll then realize that actually you figured out, like you can basically come up with a sales strategy, which means you can go to brands and be like, okay, well, there might be other companies that do similar work to me, or you might say, this is what the sector looks like as a whole, but this is why research shows what I'm trying to do is actually very beneficial.
Yeah.
And arguably, like you said, especially if you as a business or brand want to work with bigger clients, it's about understanding that whether you're the first to ever come up with this business idea or you've come up with a new approach, businesses is like, big example is if you watch like Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, it's like...
I love Dragon's Den.
Like,
I love Dragon's Den.
And like the people that do well on it, they've researched their market. They can say, well, actually, 15% of whatever is like how it's going to work, or this is going to bring this percentage of growth on investment.
Listen, this is what, you need to be ready for the rebuttal, okay? Because people are going to question you. You feel like your idea is the biggest, baddest thing out there, but let me tell you something, honey. Someone else is doing it, and someone else has already pitched it. So you need to come ready with what ifs, the risk analysis. And I think a lot of people, again, don't do the research. Do the research and be ready to challenge any questions that may come up from your customers, from investors, from friends, do you know? Like,
100%.
Yeah.
And it's like we said, like using because I think someone said the best way to be able to pitch your business is if you can explain it, like people said, if you have like children or younger siblings or even like your parents, like pitch your business to them and see if they understand it. Because especially even if you're pitching for like, let's say like a funding competition, and like the biggest example of that was actually the Arts Council did a talk and they were saying that sometimes when people apply for Arts Council funding, they explain things about their industry as if the person reading their application is from that industry and will understand like certain keywords or phrases. And they said that's usually not the case. So you might apply for, I don't know, funding to do something within acting, and they might be like, oh, the acting industry is facing this impact. And the person was just like, that's great, but I might not have a background in acting. Or you might be doing a music one. I might not be a musician. So if you're telling me musicians are struggling to sort out gigs and you want to put on like a small local gig, I'll be like, well, are they really? Like, do you have, like you said, do you have data to back that up? Can you explain it to me in like simple terms? But yeah, it's only through doing that research that you're actually able to sort of like show the evidence.
Correct. Like, that's it. That's it. You said it. Like, that's it. Show me the evidence. Receipts. We need to see the receipts, honey.
100%. But we're going to go on to the next question, which is where I would say, is sort of like where you are now. So it's looking at sustainability and innovation in fashion.
Okay,
So with both the Fashion Blueprint and now with TFB Studios AI, you've focused on making fashion production more sustainable and accessible.
Yes.
And I think especially that second part is very key, because I know that there are a lot of, like, especially now in 2025, climate change is a big thing. A lot of people are trying to be as sustainable as possible, but the accessibility is something that still needs to be worked on. Because I know, like, people have said, like even like some, like for example, big example of this was at my university, they were giving out free vouchers for this like sustainable website because they wanted to promote sustainability, and it was like great. But even like it was like a £10 voucher, but the starting price for a lot of the stuff on that website was like £40 minimum. And I was just like, for students that I know, like certain students might not necessarily be able to afford like £40 to spend on like, let's say jewelry, that's not very like accessible. So I guess my question to you is, what challenges did you see in the industry that led to you to create these solutions? But then I guess it's also thinking about, maybe in a broader sense, where do you think like, and we will talk about like fashion and AI in the future, but where do you think sustainability within fashion will go in the future?
Okay, another loaded question. No, but it's a really good one. So let me just break down what I'm building so people understand for context. So I'm building a platform called TFB Studios AI. And what this platform enables anyone to do, individuals, brands, enterprises, is to design, source, and produce on a single platform sustainably, right? So you can say to me, Missy, I want to create a garment for me and my family who are going on holiday in Dubai. I haven't got a clue on how to do it. You upload a picture of something that you've seen on Instagram. We help you design it using our 3D software. You source the fabric on the platform, and all the fabric that you source on the platform has been vetted, so sustainable options. And then once you've picked your fabric, you can order a swatch to view it and figure out if it's actually what you want to move forward with. And then once you've done that, you can order a sample to be made and delivered to your door. Nice. So that is TFB Studios AI. As simple as booking an Uber, basically. As simple as booking an Uber. The barriers I faced, personally, in building Kiwi and Yam, and that I've seen hundreds of clients face, is that one, no one's going to talk to you if you're not trying to make 100 units. Nobody wants to hear from you. Secondly, no one wants to do your legwork for you in terms of fabric sourcing. And if they do, they're just going to give you the cheapest, most generic option, right? And that is not good because you want something that's durable. If you're a brand that's selling to others, your quality of your fabrics represents the quality of your brand. Do you know what I mean? So how do you know that it's a good quality fabric if you haven't done the testing and everything like that? And that takes a lot of time. You cannot skip that phase. 100%. You cannot skip that phase. But we've done all that work for you, right? And that's sustainability at the first point of call. We've actually given you a sustainable option, and we haven't greenwashed this. We have all the data, the research. We have all the receipts to hand, and you can have that to also present to your customers and say, oh no, we've used TFB Studios, and they're not yet B Corp certified, but one day. But they're a sustainable platform, and the fabrics that we've sought from them are sustainable. And the design element is my favorite part because, so basically we do 3D rendering, right? And let me talk about this, right? No, because this is a big part of what I'm working on, right? What I ordered versus what I got. I don't know if that's ever happened to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Nigerian, like I said, and I've used Nigerian tailors before. Okay, child, let me tell you, what I ordered versus what I got using a Nigerian tailor will send you into a mad home, okay? Yes. Because sometimes your idea doesn't translate well because people are listening, but they're not understanding. Whereas with 3D rendering, we're able to give you a visual image of what your garment will look like in the size that you give us. So if you're a size 14 as a woman, we will make the garment in the render as a size 14 using the same design, the same print, and you'll also be able to see the texture. So we can get a texture manipulation so you can actually see what it will look like. 360 view, you can get a video, and that way both you and whoever's creating the garment for you has a clear understanding. And now this is where it gets better, right? Because not only do you have a clear understanding of it, but you haven't actually had to cut fabric and make the garment. So you're saving up to 97% in fabric waste because you're not making anything and disposing it. You're actually just creating something that can be worn at the first instance. So that's the ways that we kind of overcome some of the sustainability challenges and the barriers that people have, such as getting their design ideas out. You don't have to create a tech pack or you don't have to sketch. Just send a picture from Instagram. Send it and then just annotate, like change the neck, change the collar, whatever it is. And what I tell people when they kind of say, oh, but uploading a picture of Instagram, listen, are you making a dress? Are you making a top? Are you making a pair of trousers? Because fashion isn't that like complex. The silhouettes are kind of all the same, but they just got, the difference is the fabric choice, maybe the trimmings and all the little bits like that. Obviously, as a designer myself, I know that there's changes you can make to make a design unique. But in terms of silhouette, it's kind of all from a core base, a block. And a lot of people don't have the opportunity to go to fashion school and learn all the complex, learn about pattern cutting and all these things. So just come to us and we do everything. So we take away the barrier of having the expertise and having the time. So quality, efficiency, all of that.
That's incredible. No, and I definitely agree. I think, like you said, I can't know, I'm also Nigerian, so I know especially the issues you're talking about. The back and forth you can have, and you can sort of be like, this is like completely wildly
like the horror stories. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to do a series about the horror stories because I've heard stuff like people like their wedding day, their birthdays, and the tailor will just be like, yeah, that's what you wanted though. Or I thought that's what you wanted. And I think it's the assumption that's killing my people. The assumptions are killing my people.
No, 100%. And I think it's like what you said, like making it easier both for the tailor but also for the consumer is what's needed, and like through what you're currently working on, that's been incredible. I know we will talk about AI later.
Yes.
But I do think so it's not the next question I've got listed here, but it is important to ask. So with your background, do you have a background in like AI creation and like stuff like that? And if you don't, how have you found like getting into that space? Because I know for a lot of people that maybe they haven't, like they're interested in tech or AI, and they're finding like having to learn all that stuff can be quite complicated.
Quite daunting, yeah. So I don't have any experience in AI. Actually, I studied fashion management in university, and I've just been a fashion girl throughout my life. About 2 years ago, I did do a software engineering bootcamp for 6 months. So I learned kind of the basics, fundamentals in software engineering, AWS, Python, and everything like that. And that's just because I'm a big geek. I'm a big geek. People don't really know this about me, but I'm a geek. Like I love, if I find interest in something, I pigeonhole myself. I'm like, how? And I think it's just my childhood curiosity. Like I really want to know the inner workings of stuff. But there's so many resources available online, and YouTube is your best friend. 100%. Like I'm School of YouTube graduate. I taught myself how to sew with YouTube. Like honestly, and I was making garments for the band and Wizkid, learning how to sew via YouTube. So the information is out there, you just have to seek it. And nowadays, there's a lot of kind of like short boot camps, courses and like that. In terms of developing an AI, should I be really honest?
Yeah, go ahead.
Should I be really honest?
Yes.
I met a guy on Bumble. Okay. Bumble Biz.
Okay, Bumble Biz. Okay.
Bumble Biz.
Okay.
Yeah, so I joined Bumble, and I didn't actually know at the time that there was Bumble Biz. I thought I was going for dating. And then I saw the business option, and then there's just so many people you can meet. But that's to say that there's so many people out there that are looking to share their knowledge. So if it's not Bumble, Somerset House, networking events, and all these kind of recruitment days, there's opportunity to meet people. And if you align, then it's perfect, because I've managed to get developers and advisors on board with no funding. I've not yet got funding. But I've still kind of developed my MVP. And just having the idea is a start, right? Because then you have something to talk about when you meet people.
100%.
And obviously last year I was able to secure money from Innovate UK. So for our MVP. And that's also because I had the idea, I did the research, and it had viability. But there's always people out there who are probably open to supporting and collaborating. AI is a fast evolving landscape. Like it moves. Like one day it's Claude, ChatGPT. I don't even know what's next. Like, oh God. So I would just say, join a lot of forums. LinkedIn is great. Reddit is great. Join forums and just put your idea out there, as much information as you can disclose as possible. And whoever kind of jumps on board will jump on board, but don't overwhelm yourself, because you're never going to be up to date with the latest AI technology or inventions. So just
that's perfect. So does this mean that we're gonna be seeing Missy's gonna have a YouTube channel? Is it gonna be Misi Africa YouTube talking about AI development? And
do you know what? I would love to have a YouTube. As you can tell, I'm very chatty. I'm very chatty, but I'm building a tech platform right now. So I don't. Founders who are doing the whole sharing journey and building at the same time, please let me touch the hem of your garment, because I find it really difficult. Maybe because I'm a single mom as well. My capacity is here. But the YouTube channel, watch out. Yeah. Maybe you can produce it. We can work something out. Yeah.
But I think it's really key, like you said, that there is like so many free resources out there that can help you to like learn these skills and knowledge. Even for us, like you guys will not see it because essentially it's all the editing stuff, but like I use AI tools to help with like video creation. And it's literally like what you said, that I was like, okay, cool. Well, like, for example, like this, we're recording on 2 different cameras, and I was like, oh, it'd be really great if there was an AI tool that could just automatically do the cuts for me, so I don't have to necessarily watch the full thing and do the cuts myself, it will automatically just do it like by itself. And I was like, there must be someone that's like come up with this. And then I found out there was this tool called Autopod, which I would definitely recommend. And it basically like does all the like cuts for us. I said that it would be good if there was AI tools that could like support your video creation as well. And then we're actually affiliate link, so I'll put the link in the description. But there's this company called Descript, and they have like a really good like transcript software. But then they developed an AI tool called Underlord, which is all around the idea. Like I've told people,
Underlord, okay.
I would say like if you want to, I've told people if you want to go to video content creation and you want something that's got like most of the things that you would need, I've said this is basically like...
Okay, I'm downloading it.
Mental health is really important to us at Pick Up the Mic, and we love to share resources that can support your mental health. And that's why we are so glad to have today's sponsor. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get you started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live appointments when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't right for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom picked for you. More scheduling flexibility and at an affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/pickupthemic. I've also linked them down below in the description. So again, that's betterhelp.com/pickupthemic, MIC, and start your journey today.
Where's my phone? This is download it right now.
Because basically, like, it is super, like, when it comes to editing, like, episodes and all of this stuff, it's really good for, like, a few different reasons. So one, you can use it to create a highlight reel from any video that you create or, like, upload to its software. You can use it to come up with chapter markers, titles, YouTube descriptions. The biggest thing I've seen, it can come up with a blog post and social media post based on your video. So whereas with something like with ChatGPT, you might need to give it like a bit of a prompt or like, I don't think for now, at least with ChatGPT, you can like upload, like you can link a video and say like, watch this video and then do it. With the script, it will automatically just be like, okay, if you tell it like reference all the stuff in this video, write it in the third person, come up with like a blog post based on this conversation, it will automatically do that. And then now with their AI tools, so if you want to edit videos in it and you want to, let's say like, for example, like I'm recording myself now, I want it to like zoom in on me a certain part, so I want it to zoom out or like switch, have cool transitions. They've now added with their recent update an AI, so with their AI thing, it does like a smart transition. So based on the information that you're saying from the transcript, it will then pick like,
do you know what, yeah? I saw a video of will.i.am saying this, and I am like, yes, so for it, because right now is the best time to start anything because there's so many tools available to support you. As someone who's a solo founder doing this by yourself, you can be a team of 10 with AI and execute. So yeah, I'm so with it. I need to download that.
Definitely I recommend. And literally like what you said,
got a discount link?
Yeah, I've got one for But literally, essentially like what you said, like I can't do everything. Like, and if I try to, like, you will just burn out. But like you said, there are tools that can help to support me. And even if it's just like, you know what, I just need like, so even like with the YouTube description, sometimes the YouTube or the social media post it comes up with aren't the best, but it's still like, okay, I don't need to necessarily come up with this from scratch. I've got something I can already use and I can tailor it to match like, maybe my tone or what I'm specifically looking for. And that's the most important thing.
I think what a lot of people are getting wrong with AI is thinking that it's going to do all the work for them. Whereas I think it's the best use of AI, especially ChatGPT, is something like to help with ideation. And what you can do from that is then take it into your tone and humanize it. I hate when I see people, everyone is kind of like saying the same thing. Everyone is now using the same language. And I'm like, that's not how you speak. That's not who you are. So definitely kind of use it as a first point of call, but then filter it down so it can be more you.
100%, 100%. And even like, the biggest example of what you said is like before working at someone's house, I used to work at my university. So I was helping students to find like placements and internships. And that was one of the things that like, as a team, we started to realize was that a lot of students were writing their CVs and cover letters through ChatGPT to the point where like, you could tell it was copy and pasted because you would see like insert like company name here or like insert your name in the cover letter, and they would just like copy and paste it directly, submit it, and then you'd be like, okay, you can clearly tell like you wrote this in ChatGPT. So even my university, they were just like, okay, cool. Rather than just like telling students you can't submit CVs and cover letters that are written in ChatGPT, they were just like, why don't we just teach them how to use it as a prompt? And then like develop like your own CV. So don't necessarily copy and paste the CV that's there, but how can we tell them, oh, based on the prompts you put in ChatGPT, like how could you fix it or like make it more interesting? Even like I tell people as well with Pick Up the Mic, it's the same thing. So if I'm maybe thinking about, developing, I don't know, like a new area for Pick Up the Mic or stuff like that, or I want to like reframe stuff, or I want to figure out like maybe possible next steps to Pick Up the Mic, I will use, like I tell people I use ChatGPT, but like I will give it information. So I'll be like, okay, this is an overview of Pick Up the Mic. We're interested in going into this area. Like you said, I might submit research that I've collated myself, or might even ask it like, where could I find certain bits of information? And then I'll collate that information, develop like a specific prompt, and like you said, like through using that as like detailed as possible from my effort, it means that the things that are coming out are more targeted and are more able to like use to develop.
I am so with you. Like honestly, it's just, I think teaching yourself how to use these tools properly is the best way to go around it, rather than just flaking. And what's that in university? Don't you have to have what's it called again when your work has to be unique? Plagiarism.
Yeah.
So like you don't want to like plagiarize. Do you know what I mean? Like that is not you creating your own IP. And people are starting to lose their own tone of voice and just nowadays you need to be disruptive, and the only way to be disruptive, which is quite funny to me, is to be authentic. So authenticity is the new in thing, and it's like, wait, isn't that the norm? Shouldn't that be the norm? But yeah.
100%. I'm going to actually switch the questions around because we've discussed AI, and I think this was really important. So the next question it's all about the future of fashion and AI. So as we've mentioned, technology is rapidly changing, not just the fashion industry, but every industry. So how do you see AI and automation influencing fashion production and entrepreneurship in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, Next 5 years, how do I see AI influencing fashion production? I see TFB Studios being the #1 platform in the world.
It's coming.
It's coming. And I feel like they will be able to support the global supply chain, that being that people who want to make garments are able to make garments anywhere in the world at ease, because the AI will be able to support them with language, first of all. So cross-cultural understanding. And I think one of the things that I'm really big on is obviously sustainability. So how AI can support that is stuff like inventory management, knowing how much to make, when to make, because the fashion industry is the second biggest contributor to climate change. So if we're able to make just as much instead of overproduction, then that can be, world-changing, literally world-changing. I also see AI being able to support founders or people who want to go into production with just the management of it all. It's a bit overwhelming sometimes because you're thinking about making garments or a collection, then you're thinking about marketing the collection, then you're thinking about delivering it to customers, then you're thinking about managing stakeholders, stockists, and it's like, you're all over the place. Even if you do have a team of 10, 100, there's just so much to kind of like consider, where AI can kind of give you the visibility and the support to kind of manage and automate things. Bigger than AI, I think automation is where the fashion industry, in terms of production, needs to go. So in factories right now, we have line production. So it will be like someone is a cutter, someone is a seamstress, someone is a QC kind of thing. Okay. So with automation, how that can support is just an easier flow. So it will still need a manual to oversee, but in terms of the actual work, it can be done using technology. So yeah, I definitely see hope for the fashion industry in the next 5 years with the development of automation and AI. And of course, TFB Studios.
No, of course, definitely. And I think it's like what we said before, that even with like stuff possibly being like automated, like that's not to say that the human element is lost. It's as we mentioned before, like the human element will still be there, but it's like making things easier in the like long run and like easier to manage with like you said, like it's essentially like making, you still have that human element on it, but it's making the production side easier, the like you said, quality control easier, and even like arguably, like we've seen it in other industries, like that have, like for example, big one is the car industry, like that's used to be very much heavy on like essentially people, but that's also allowed itself to be automated, and for certain companies they've still kept that like human element in the production side of things, because like automation or like AI tools or robots, like whatever, is not always like there's always like similar to like human error as people, there's also error that can happen in code and things like that.
Definitely.
So it's always about like that awareness, like you said, like but yeah, that's why the human element is needed, and using AI isn't saying like get rid of the human element, just give it to a software. It's about
let me just say this, right? I need to make it very clear, because fashion is a human business. There is no way you can get rid of humans in the fashion industry. It just doesn't make sense, right? The craftsmanship, the time, the attention to detail, no computer in the world can take over from that. But what it can do, and I'll relate it back to my business, is so I'm working on a project right now where I help Nigerian craftsmen in rural parts of Nigeria to actually access the global market. So let's just say there's someone in Abeokuta that's making a shoke, which is like a woven fabric, very big in Nigeria, Africa. They don't know who you are, right? They don't know how to gain access to you. There's still quite a digital struggle in Africa, just because of our, a lot of reasons. Our infrastructure, our government hasn't allowed people to access digital tools. But what someone like I can do, TFB Studios can do, is have a digital front end, which means that you as the customer can access the platform, but the craftsman can also facilitate or deliver the goods without having to, change things or even have access to technology, just because we have a manual back end kind of thing. So I feel like it's the ease, definitely, but you can never fully get rid of humans in this game. Like, and God, like, robots are taking over the world, but they can never take over fashion. Like, like never.
And we've now come to the last question, which is all about navigating the business of fashion. So I think one thing that's through like different people through this podcast or like in general, many emerging designers sometimes struggle with scaling their business. So what would you say are some key strategies or resources you believe fashion entrepreneurs need to build a sustainable and profitable brand?
Well, obviously the first thing I'm going to say is to join TFB Studios. Actually, no, because we are launching something that is actually so incredible. I'm so excited by this. We are launching our Build a Brand Bootcamp, which is a 6-week bootcamp that enables anyone to design a collection that's production ready. It gives them the tools from brand conceptualization, financial management, legal support, and kind of just merchandising. We have industry experts. We have Chan, who is the visual merchandiser for Under Armour, regional visual merchandiser, and just a load of people. And it's about £5,000 value worth, but we're doing it for like a fraction of the price. And I just feel like accessible tools, is important. But I think if you are wanting to start a fashion business, research. Do your research and don't sleep on the strategy. I think a lot of people get excited and they just want to like execute and post on Instagram, which is great. Like honestly, social media is key to like getting visibility and getting customers, but there's a lot of things that need to happen in the back end before you can even let people know that you're alive, right? And one of the things that I hate to see is when people go live and they don't have anything for their clients to, or the customers to purchase. So I've seen things like people do sponsored ads and they're like, then I'm like, okay, cool, let me go on the website. Nothing is available. You've lost momentum. You've lost a customer. You've lost a fan base, right? So I think that readiness is important as delivery. So don't sleep on the back end. Even if it takes a year, 2 years, like it's better that you're well prepped than just out there.
No, 100%. It's literally like what you said, like the biggest example I tell people is YouTube. So a lot of people see like YouTube and they think like if you've got like a big like views on, like if you've got a lot of views on your videos or you've got a lot of subscribers, that automatically means that like you've got a huge amount of like financial like gain coming in from YouTube. But I explain to people there's things you need to be aware of. So if you have like YouTube channel memberships, so that means you can do like a paid membership, like people can pay to watch extra bits of videos. Basically it's like Patreon for YouTube. Like I've told people, no matter how much you charge, YouTube will take a 40% cut. So you only actually get 60% of whatever you're charging.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Woo, that's a big chunk.
Yeah, so I've told people like, you know, be aware of that. It's the same thing like you said with, so even with Patreon, so like a lot of people that create content, whether it's like podcasts, videos, YouTube channels, whatever, they always like want to set up like a Patreon because they're just like, okay, this is a quick, instant way to get money. But the biggest thing, even like from our journey was, okay, well, if you're going to do that, are you prepared? Like, what are people paying for, and can you deliver on that? Because the biggest one, like for podcasts, is people say, okay, you have to give like early access to your podcast, which means then like, whereas if with a public video, you might be like, oh, I can just release it whenever, or I don't necessarily need to have a fixed schedule. With a Patreon community, people will only start paying if they can see, oh, actually, you know, maybe people get their content like 3 days in advance from everyone else. And it's the same thing with like with YouTube views. So there's this great channel that I say, if anyone wants to go into YouTube, they should check out. It's called vidIQ. And they break down like how much, so they've got, I don't know, like, I think they've got over 1 million subscribers, I think. But they were talking about like their views, like some, for their bigger videos, they've only got like, I don't know, like if it's got over 1 million views, or even if it's a YouTube short, they've only got like maybe like hundreds of dollars for it. And they were just like, that's like, people think that you can earn a lot of money through just like creating content on YouTube. And they said, actually, no, the way that they have basically made money is they use YouTube as a tool to like bring awareness about their brand and the work that they do. And then they have their own platform that supports YouTubers. So they have like paid models on there. So it's also about, like you said there, like thinking about if you are going to like branch, like essentially grow from just like being on one platform to like developing like a paid level of your business, how are you going to like incentivize people to be like, oh, I've seen your page, I've seen your Instagram page, your YouTube page, now I want to actually like purchase it, or like purchase your services or your products. How do you create that like through route? And it's like we said, if you're not ready, that can, like you said, it sort of almost like cuts that like interest, because people will be like, okay, you're not ready, I'll come back later. But then there might be a brand 2 weeks later that is ready, they've launched, and then it's doing the exact same thing as you, and they're going to go with themselves.
Yeah, because we live in a microwave society. No one has time. No one cares about you as much as you think they do. So if they see you and they actually engage, be ready to deliver. If you're not ready to deliver, you've missed out on money. And one thing that you've just said that is like really important for any kind of business model is to really identify your revenue models and understand the difference between revenue and profit, right? You make £100, but is that how much you take home once you cut out the 40% fee, the editing software that you're using every month, the rental for the room that you've paid for? You could be left with £5. So really and truly, it's not about just creating a business. You need to actually be business minded in every step of the way. And there's a lot to think about, honestly, but thankfully there's ways to support. There's TFB Studios and AI,
Yeah, 100%. And I think like one final thing on what you mentioned is like understanding that like when it comes to like the financial model, like I think one of the biggest, I think we've spoken about it before, but like one of the biggest things that like misconception is getting grants or like fundraising to build your business. And that's not to say like businesses can't survive on that, but as we've sort of seen, especially if you're in the arts or the creative industry, like funding is tough. So, and especially if you then like start to narrow it down to like specific industries, it's even tougher. And like I've also said, as like Pick Up the Mic is a limited company, so even as a limited company, funding opportunities are even thinner because most funding is currently going to like charities, not-for-profits, or CICs. So it's about, and like the biggest thing I've told people is people sometimes say, oh, well, you know, if funding's going to CICs, it makes the most sense to register my company now as a CIC, and then once I've gotten all this funding, started to build it up, made a name for myself, then I'll just turn into a limited company and it will be good. And it's like, actually, no, do you know about the legal? Like,
I was about to say, get yourself a lawyer. Get yourself a lawyer, because that's a lot of like mismanagement of business. Yeah.
And even, no, I was going to say even like, so one person was talking to me about it and they were saying like, do you know that if you register as a CIC or as a charity and you then move to being like a limited company, you have to clearly state why that's the case and like show like why you are doing this. And essentially if it looks like there is no real reason, that could cause like investigation to your company, your business practices and things like that. And if you don't want that, it's arguably like, okay, well, you might not necessarily be able to get funding now as a limited company, but if you know you want to eventually get profit from it and just grow and develop as a company, then people say like, just be a limited company, but develop your sales strategy. So it's, you know, similar with you, you've got your boot camp, you've got all the incredible services that you're offering, but you've developed that strategy that now like, let's say you applied for like Arts Council funding and you didn't get it, you know that you could, through your other services, cover the cost of the deliverables that you want to do. So yeah, that's the biggest thing I tell people is just like, just be aware that like fundraising or like getting money always through grants and stuff like that is very difficult. It's a difficult space to be in. Yes, there are quite a few funding opportunities, but it's always hard to find them. And I know we've discussed it as well, like sometimes it's also like a cultural thing. So, you know, we mentioned that in America, there's a lot of funding opportunities, you know, even with like this whole political change and like changes in policies, you know, I still see on LinkedIn, there's loads of opportunities.
You don't send them to me.
Oh yeah.
Send them to me.
But it's really, I think that's what's really incredible is like, you know, I spoke to someone about it before and they were saying like, sometimes it seems like in the UK, funding, like those opportunities of funding are harder to find.
Yeah, it's definitely. The thing about the UK I found is that there's definitely a glass ceiling and there's also, it's quite segregated in terms of like, if you're not in that room, you have to be in certain rooms with certain people to kind of get the in. It's a boys' club society, so it's definitely harder. And you know, less than 1% of Black women actually get VC funding, so it's almost impossible for us. And if a Black woman does get funding, so let's talk about Shamadine, let's talk about Ruka Hair, then that's all you're going to see for the next 2 years in the newspaper. That's it. We've given you Black people money, right? Like, so I just think that if you want to get money, from my conversations with VCs, with finances, is you need to be making money first or have a clear, viable route onto how you're going to make money. You can't expect having grant money, having investment as your route to making money. And actually, another thing that is really important is fundraising is not a win. It's being revenue generating. So for me personally, if I was to raise £2 million investment, that's amazing. Of course, I will, like, I'm gonna pop some champagne. But if I was to make 2 million in revenue, it's a whole different ball game, right? Because remember, this is investment in which I need to pay back. It's not take money and go. It's not grant money. So really and truly, you need to be bootstrap minded from the beginning, and anything else that comes with it is a win. And it makes you more investable, it makes you more approachable, and it just gives your business a bit more legs to stand on. 100%. So yeah, that's where I'm at. But if anybody wants to give me money, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it. But I'm gonna make money regardless. Yeah.
That's all the questions I've got for you. Do you have any questions you want to ask me?
Oh my God, do I have any questions for you? I don't have any questions for you. I just love the conversation. I really just want to say that if anyone is looking to start a business, don't be discouraged, because it can be really, really hard sometimes, especially in the beginning stages when things are not going well. And if you feel like starting a business is too hard, then it's not for you. Because honestly, you have to have tough boots. Like, there's going to be days, it's ebbs and flows, and it's never like one size fits all either. So yeah. Yeah,
and I think like just to end on, I think it's like what you said there, that it's the same when people say about like applying for jobs. Because you know, like we work with a lot of students, so when like we talk about like career stuff, like the biggest thing that we say is like just be aware of like when you graduate, you might feel like at your university you're almost like people say it's almost like you're not necessarily a safety net, but you're in like a bubble, and you might feel that you're like quite big at your university, you're quite well known, so like you do a lot of work, so you're finding a career opportunity, or like we said here, you know, if you're starting a business, getting money in is going to be like super easy. But then it's like, no, like, and I think my a manager, like a close friend and a manager, someone who used to manage me, said it perfectly. She was just like, when you're at university, you're like a big fish in a small pond. But then when you leave university, especially like if you know, maybe you've been at university for a while, you've made connections, you've maybe done a lot of incredible work. So when you leave university, you're a small fish in like a big pond. And it's about understanding, like you said, like you do need to have perseverance. So if you're applying for jobs, if you're like, funding is the best example. Like we were saying with grants, you might have like the best application, you've worked the night and day on it, it's been reviewed by so many people, and then it turns out, oh, sorry, you didn't get it. And that might be a case of like, it's happened a few times, especially like another one is like when you're applying for awards, you know, it's the same thing. You might put in like the most detailed award application you've ever done and be like, okay, you know, I'm sure this is what I'm going to get. And then you might find out, actually, no, you didn't win it. You didn't. And it's just like you said, like that perseverance, because
it's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's tough.
So there's this fact, or this stat rather, that you apply for like 500 applications, or you reach out to 500 VCs, and you only get like 5 responses. And I think the founder of Canva, the woman, she's a woman by the way, she had like thousands of applications and she got turned down, and then it just takes one. It just takes one. So yeah, perseverance is the biggest ingredient to being a successful business owner, because you never know when it's gonna go. Just be prepared to do your 10,000 hours. Just as it, you know, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. It takes 10 years to be an overnight success. But if you really love it and you believe in what you do, such as what we do, then you'll find joy in the journey. You'll find joy in the journey. Even when you get that L, one thing I've learned, and I've asked you often for feedback, like, why didn't I get this application? Like, don't be afraid to ask people, because if they've turned you down, it might be a reason, and it's something for you to learn and iterate on. And yeah, like, it's just a journey. 100%. It's not a destination. It's definitely a journey. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think, like you said there, it's just like understanding that, like, you, like, so like, even in my own experience, like pick up the mic, like I tell people, there have been so many, like, whether it's funding opportunities, whether it's like awards and stuff that I've applied for, and maybe I didn't get it, but then like through those applications, or like through applying for it anyways, like other stuff's happened. And like the biggest example I talk about, to me, like nothing's happened from it yet, but like the big example was like last year, there's this, it's called the Multicultural Business and I think Community Awards. And like I applied for that last year on a whim. Like, it was a very last minute application, and then I got shortlisted, and I was like, great, I've been shortlisted. Then I was like, then I was just like,
oh God, I thought pick up the mic. Pick up the mic, not drop the mic. What's going on?
Yeah, with the award, so I then like, it was like, came to voting, and I was like, okay, I think I just like had a lot on at the moment, so I wasn't really like promoting it well, and I just like spoke to people that I knew and said, oh, could you just, like I did, I think, a LinkedIn post, and then asked people if they could share it. And then yeah, found out I was like shortlisted. I was in like the top 5. Both Pick Up the Mic and myself for different categories. And I think the biggest thing like from that was I didn't win in the end, but I wasn't upset because like I think one of them was like Entrepreneur of the Year, and I ended up being shortlisted with I forgot his name. It's Ben something, but the guy who's the founder of Gymshark.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's major.
So to me, it was just like random because they did a LinkedIn post saying like, oh yeah, you know, for the Entrepreneur of the Year, like these are the people that have been shortlisted, and then I looked at it and I was like, this guy's name, I swear I've seen his name before. Looked on LinkedIn profile, saw it was him, and I was just like, oh yeah, you know what, it doesn't even matter, like whether I win or not, like
that's
to
really
be shortlisted with him.
Encouraging, so encouraging.
And it's like we said, like sometimes you never know like where, like what could come from that. And I think it's important to just know that like, so like I said, like I didn't get it, but like to me that's a almost like a bit of encouragement for the work that I'm doing. And to end, like one, like I always sometimes give book recommendations, and one that I recommend to people, especially on this like small habits can lead to like big things, is Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Book, James Clear. Listen, Atomic Habits changed my life. Atomic Habits changed my life. Read that book. Listen, James Clear went clear with that book because it's the little things, the molecular things. 0.01%. If you can get better every day, wait to the end of the year. 100%. Like honestly, yes.
Yeah, I've been like starting reading. It's like we said, like the big thing. Like I'm not even like that far in, but like the big thing that it's taught me is literally like we said, like just be